Today at 5 a.m. in New York, the sky is holding a very specific kind of tension. The sun is at 5:47 degrees Pisces. The moon is at 4:26 degrees Gemini, and that means we are under a first quarter moon, the exact square between the sun and the moon in the waxing phase of the cycle. This is not the dramatic illumination of a full moon. It's not the quiet seeding of a new moon. It's the moment in between, when what was imagined now meets resistance. When something that felt intuitive a week ago now asks for participation. Pisces season is strong right now. The Sun, Mercury, Venus, and even the North Node are all in Pisces. That's a lot of water. It softens perception. It heightens intuition. It makes you more emotionally porous. You might feel more reflective than usual. You might sense things in a room before anyone says them out loud. You may even notice old memories surfacing without clear reason. But the moon in Gemini changes the texture of that sensitivity. Gemini doesn't sit in feeling for long. It thinks. It asks questions. It moves. So today there's a subtle internal split. One part of you wants to drift in emotion, music, imagination. Another part wants to respond, to text, to research, to organize, and the square between them creates friction. Not chaos, not fate, friction. This is the kind of day where feeling isn't enough. The sky presses back, just a little, asking, what will you do with what you already know? How does insight become movement, even in its smallest form? That's the deeper tone of this first quarter moon. It's not about becoming someone new overnight. It's about noticing the internal shift that has already started and choosing how you meet it. There is pressure, yes, but it's the pressure of growth. As this first quarter energy settles into the body, the experience often begins long before the mind names it. You might wake up already aware of a subtle restlessness, a sense that your thoughts are one step ahead of your emotions. Before you even check the time, the body is signaling that something is in motion. That's the Gemini moon arriving before the day fully begins, a mental quickening that the physical body hasn't quite matched yet. You may notice it in small places. A tighter inhale when you first sit up in bed. A slight buzzing in the chest, as if you're bracing for something you can't identify. Shoulders that rise a little higher than usual without being asked. These are not dramatic symptoms. They're early whispers of the square between the sun and the moon. Pisces, the emotional tide, pulls you inward. Gemini, the mental spark, pulls you outward. And the body stands between them, trying to keep rhythm with both. Through the morning, it can feel like you're moving in two tempos at once. One part of you drifting, the other part already 3 steps ahead. You might feel drawn towards silence and softness, yet catch yourself picking up your phone again and again, scanning for stimulation. Gemini's air wants movement. Pisces' water wants absorption. The result is a sensation of being alert and sensitive at the same time. Your mind may be racing while your chest feels tender. Your thoughts may be sharp while your body feels porous. Pay attention to the throat today. Mercury and Venus in Pisces often soften communication, but they also make the throat a gateway of emotion. Before speaking, you may sense a catch, a moment where the body asks, is this honest? Or is this too much? The tightness isn't a warning, it's a check-in. And when you do voice something that aligns with what you truly feel, there's an immediate physical ease, almost like a warmth spreading across the collarbones. The stomach area may also speak loudly under this sky. The first quarter moon often activates subtle anxiety, not because anything is wrong, but because something inside wants forward motion. You may feel small flutters, a light hollowness, or a brief drop in your gut when you think about tasks, conversations, or plans you've been postponing. These sensations aren't signals of danger. They're reminders that you care about what happens next. As the day moves, the nervous system becomes an important translator of the sky. Mars and Pluto in Aquarius can create a low hum of collective tension, the kind that makes the jaw tighten without a story attached. You may scroll through the news and feel your heart rate rise, not from the content itself, but from the energetic atmosphere. Again, not a personal flaw, just your body registering the shifts around you. Even small reactions hold meaning today. A sigh that comes out deeper than intended, a pause before answering a message, the impulse to step outside for air. These micro-responses are your body coordinating with the moon's movement, adjusting to the pressure of the square. You don't need to fix any of this. You don't need to force calm or chase clarity. The goal isn't to override the body, but to listen to its early signals, the quiet contractions and releases that reveal how the day's astrology is already interacting with you. When you notice these sensations, you're not doing anything wrong. You're simply becoming aware of how the sky moves through you. As these sensations gather and settle, they begin to shape the rhythm of your day in ways that are subtle but unmistakable. The first quarter moon doesn't explode into your schedule. It threads itself through ordinary moments, the kinds of moments you would normally rush past without noticing. Under a Gemini moon, the mind speeds up. Under a Pisces sun, the heart softens. And that contrast shows up most clearly in the practical corners of daily life. You might start the morning intending to keep things simple, only to find yourself pulled into multiple micro-decisions at once. A text you meant to answer days ago suddenly feels urgent. An email draft you've avoided keeps flashing in your mind. A conversation you've been postponing hovers at the edge of your awareness, asking to be acknowledged. Gemini drags these tasks into the foreground, while Pisces wraps every action in feeling, not overwhelm, but a tenderness you can't quite switch off. In work settings, this can translate into small disruptions in focus. You open your laptop with one clear intention, and within a few minutes you're toggling between 5 tabs, half thinking about something personal while half processing something professional. It's not distraction for its own sake. It's Gemini's way of searching for the right entry point. Meanwhile, Pisces quietly reminds you that some decisions require emotional readiness, not just productivity. So you hover in between, wanting clarity, but not wanting to push yourself into it. Conversations today may feel both easier and harder. Easier because Mercury and Venus in Pisces soften your tone and invite sincerity. Harder because sincerity requires contact, and contact can feel vulnerable under a first quarter moon. You may find yourself editing texts, rewriting an email, or pausing before speaking out loud, not because you're unsure of your feelings, but because you want the delivery to match the truth. This is alignment work disguised as everyday communication. Boundaries also come into view in small ways. A colleague's request might feel heavier than usual. A friend's message might stir more emotion than expected. You may catch yourself saying yes too quickly, then feeling that familiar tightness in your chest. Pisces makes you receptive, Gemini makes you reactive, and the friction between them helps you notice, in real time, where your energy is leaking or being stretched too thin. Even errands and routines carry the imprint of the sky. You might walk into a grocery store and suddenly feel overstimulated by noise or choices. You might feel hyper-aware of people's expressions or tone. You might sense impatience rising in your body when something takes longer than expected. None of this is dramatic. It's just the moon highlighting the gap between inner pace and outer pace. Gemini wants movement. Pisces wants gentleness. The world may be asking for speed, while your nervous system is asking for care. Relationships can show the pattern even more clearly. A partner's question may land more deeply than they intend. A co-worker's tone may activate emotional recall. A simple check-in from someone you care about may feel grounding, almost like a reminder that connection doesn't have to be complicated. Lightness, a laugh, a shared moment, a small story, becomes medicine today, as Venus in Pisces offers softness where conversations might otherwise feel sharp. And the question beneath all these interactions is the same one the moon is asking. How do you respond when everyday life presses just slightly harder than usual? Not in big, dramatic ways, but in the micro moments where your patterns reveal themselves. Do you avoid? Do you rush? Do you overthink? Do you numb out? Do you soften? Today's pressure finds you in the ordinary, in your inbox, in your kitchen, in your group chat, in the hallway between meetings. It shows you the places where your old responses no longer match who you're becoming, and the new responses that are quietly trying to rise. This is how the first quarter moon enters daily life, not by disrupting it, but by illuminating the small cracks where change wants to begin. At the heart of today's sky is a very clear pattern, one that becomes easier to see once you notice how your body and your day have been responding. Pressure reveals your defaults. Not catastrophic pressure, not life-changing pressure, just the subtle kind, the kind that sits behind your thoughts, nudges your emotions, and shows up in the quiet gap between what you feel and what you do next. Under this first quarter moon, that pressure has a specific texture. The sun in Pisces wants softness, connection, imagination, and emotional flow. The moon in Gemini wants movement, logic, questions, distraction, stimulation. And when the two signs form a square, you feel the internal pull between them. It's the moment where old habits become visible, the moment where your nervous system tells the truth before your mind explains it. For many people, the default pattern today is overthinking. Gemini amplifies mental loops, making you scan possibilities, rehearse conversations, or imagine outcomes that don't need to exist yet. You might catch yourself planning 3 steps ahead while still avoiding the first one. The pressure isn't pushing you to decide immediately. It's showing how quickly your mind tries to outrun uncertainty. For others, the pattern shows up as emotional flooding. Pisces heightens sensitivity, so even small moments feel bigger. A tone of voice feels sharper. An unanswered message feels heavier. A thought that usually passes quietly now lingers. Not because something is wrong, but because the emotional membrane is thinner, more permeable. The pressure here isn't dramatic, it's subtle. It simply asks, are you noticing what lands too deeply, and do you understand why? And for many, the core pattern is avoidance. The tension of the square highlights the micro choices where you slide away from discomfort. Opening a new tab instead of making the call, drafting a text instead of sending it, reorganizing your desk instead of confronting the thing that's been weighing on you. Avoidance isn't a flaw. It's a coping strategy that emerges when two conflicting energies, emotional sensitivity and mental stimulation, collide. Mars and Pluto in Aquarius intensify this pattern by adding background noise. The collective field feels charged, which makes your personal reactions feel louder inside your body. Even if nothing big is happening in your own life, the hum of the world can activate your default responses more easily. And so the pattern of the day becomes clearer. Under pressure, your nervous system reaches for the path it knows best. But this is where the first quarter moon is different from a full moon or a new moon. Its purpose is not revelation or release, it's recalibration. It shows you the pattern not to judge it, but to understand it. To see what you do when tension rises. To notice where you tighten, where you rush, where you withdraw, where you soften. This pattern isn't a verdict, it's a location, the exact place your growth is trying to surface. It reveals the gap between intention and action, between desire and follow-through, between who you have been and who you are slowly learning to become. And the sky isn't asking you to fix the pattern today, it's simply asking you to see it, clearly, honestly, without dramatizing it. Because awareness is the hinge point. It's the moment where you can choose differently, even in a small way. And under a Gemini moon, even the smallest shift can reset the tone of the entire day. When we look a little deeper into today's astrology, the pattern of pressure and default responses begins to make even more sense. The sky isn't creating your experience out of nowhere, it's mirroring the inner dynamics already in motion. And the specific arrangement of planets today explains why certain reactions feel sharper, why clarity feels slower, and why the smallest decisions seem heavier than usual. The moon in Gemini is the first piece of this. Gemini is quick, curious, mentally active. It notices everything. It asks questions before feelings have time to organize themselves. When the moon moves through this sign, your emotional landscape becomes more cognitive. Instead of sinking into sensations the way a moon in Pisces or Cancer might, you translate them into thoughts. What does this mean? Should I say something? Is this a sign? Do I need to fix this? The moon doesn't slow down here, it accelerates, often faster than the rest of you can keep up. Now place that moon into a square with the sun in Pisces. Pisces is the opposite rhythm, slow, diffused, intuitive, impressionistic. It doesn't rush, it doesn't categorize, it feels its way into understanding. So when a fast, question-driven moon meets a soft, non-linear sun, the nervous system gets mixed instructions. Hurry up, slow down, think clearly, feel deeply, move now, wait a little longer. The friction isn't a mistake, it's the astrological signature of the first quarter moon, where these conflicts naturally rise to the surface. Jupiter at 15 degrees Cancer adds another layer. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, and Cancer rules emotional memory. This is why small triggers may feel amplified today. It's not that the events themselves are bigger, it's that Jupiter is stretching the emotional response, bringing older patterns or memories into the foreground. When you react more strongly than you expected to something minor, that's Jupiter revealing where tenderness still lives. Saturn at 1 degree Aries and Neptune at 0 degrees Aries are beginning a long process of redefining how you initiate action. Saturn wants structure, discipline, accountability. Neptune dissolves rigid expectations and invites imagination over certainty. When these two sit side by side in the first sign of the zodiac, the sign of beginnings, they create a temporary tension between wanting to take a step and not knowing what step makes sense yet. That tension doesn't mean you're unprepared. It means the path is forming beneath your feet rather than ahead of you. Chiron at 23 degrees Aries adds sensitivity around self-trust. Aries is the sign of will, instinct, and identity, and Chiron there exposes the places where those things have been doubted, discouraged, or wounded. So when you face a moment that requires stepping forward, even in a small way, it's natural for older insecurities to rise for a moment. Chiron isn't there to reopen the wound. It's there to highlight the edges where courage is still growing. Mars at 25 degrees Aquarius and Pluto at 4 degrees Aquarius create the background frequency of collective intensity. Aquarius is mental, futuristic, systemic, And when both the planet of drive, Mars, and the planet of transformation, Pluto, sit in this sign, the air around you feels charged, even if nothing personal is happening. Your body can pick up on that charge before your mind names it. This is the buzzing in the chest, the tightness in the jaw, the impulse to check updates or scroll without stopping. It's not personal anxiety, it's atmospheric voltage. Uranus at 27 degrees Taurus provides the final piece. Instability around what you thought was secure. Uranus disrupts. Taurus clings. When combined, they push you to examine how tightly you're holding on to routines, beliefs, or structures that no longer fit. This doesn't mean anything collapses today. It simply means restlessness rises in the areas where change is overdue. Layer all of this together and the day's pattern becomes clear. Your mind is quick, your emotions are porous, your body is on alert, old memories stir, and identity, the quiet shape of it, begins to shift. And your stability is being gently questioned. The sky isn't demanding action. It's revealing what kind of action feels aligned. It's showing why pressure feels different today, not to overwhelm you, but to illuminate the exact points where growth is trying to take root. And when you understand the why, the experience becomes less chaotic and more meaningful, not mystical, not dramatic, but deeply human and deeply connected to the world above you. There's a familiar story many people fall into on days like this. A story that says, if I'm feeling pressured, scattered, or unsure, something must be wrong with me. It's a quiet belief, often unspoken, shaped by years of trying to stay composed, productive, and emotionally balanced. But the first quarter moon offers a different lens, one that softens the edges of that old narrative. Instead of assuming pressure means failure, today's sky suggests something gentler. Pressure means you've reached the point where growth becomes visible, not glamorous, not triumphant, visible. The moment where the gap between intention and action becomes clear enough to work with, rather than something to hide from. Under this moon, the mind may want to interpret friction as a sign that you're slipping, losing clarity, or moving backward. Gemini's quick thoughts often jump to conclusions. Why am I like this again? Why can't I just decide? Why is this suddenly so hard? But Pisces brings in a different truth. Feelings are data too. Sensitivity doesn't mean instability. Slowness doesn't mean weakness. Not knowing doesn't mean you're behind. So instead of judging the pressure, you can ask a different question. What is this pressure showing me about how I move through uncertainty? That shift, from self-blame to self-study, is where the day's real work begins. And here's the quiet part that often goes unnoticed. You don't need a breakthrough to grow. You don't need a mystical sign or a cosmic confirmation. You don't need to force a transformation to prove you're evolving. Gemini offers small steps. Pisces offers emotional truth. The first quarter moon blends them into a simple invitation. Let today be about resetting how you respond, not reinventing who you are. This reframe also helps dissolve another old belief, the idea that you must wait for confidence before taking action. But under this sky, confidence is the outcome, not the prerequisite. Saturn and Neptune in early Aries remind you that beginnings are naturally uncertain. Chiron reminds you that doubt often rises right before courage does. And Jupiter in Cancer shows that emotional waves don't derail you. They teach you how deeply you care. So instead of trying to fix the discomfort, you can hold it differently. You can interpret the buzzing in your chest not as panic, but as activation. The throat tightness not as fear, but as honesty approaching. The restlessness not as distraction, but as readiness searching for direction. This is also where a softened version of the chosen one spirit can live, not as destiny, not as superiority, but as a recognition that your inner world is responsive, alive, and capable of recalibration. You are not being pushed toward a dramatic awakening. You are being nudged toward a truer version of your own responses. What rises in you today isn't a flaw, it's feedback. The tension isn't a consequence, it's a signal. And what feels tender is not fragility. It's evidence that you're in contact with something real inside yourself. The sky isn't asking for perfection, it's asking for presence. And when you shift from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What is this showing me about how I move through life?" the whole day opens in a different way. Quieter, steadier, kinder. When the sky carries this kind of mixed rhythm, fast mind, soft heart, alert body, the most supportive path through the day isn't about maximizing productivity or forcing clarity. It's about integrating what you're already feeling, so the pressure doesn't turn into self-criticism or collapse. Integration today doesn't look like a checklist or a ritual. It looks like choosing gentler responses in moments when your old patterns would normally take over. One of the simplest integrations comes from noticing the gap between thought and action. Under a Gemini moon, the mind wants to move quickly. Under Pisces influence, your emotions may not want to move at all. Instead of trying to choose between the two, you can let them inform each other. When a thought arrives sharply, "I should do this," pause long enough to feel whether the body agrees. And when an emotion rises strongly, "This feels heavy," let your mind ask a soft question rather than rush to interpret it. That's the alignment the first quarter moon is designed to teach. Not speed, not certainty, but coordination. Another integration is learning to soften around the moments that feel complicated. If your jaw tightens, notice the tightness instead of powering through it. If your chest buzzes, take one deeper breath rather than analyzing the sensation. If a small decision feels disproportionately difficult, approach it with curiosity instead of urgency. These small pivots aren't avoidance. They're how you steady yourself before your day decides the pace for you. Communication also becomes a place where integration can happen quietly. When you feel that tension in your throat before speaking, treat it as a signal to adjust your pace rather than your message. When your instinct is to rewrite a text 5 times, let yourself send the version that feels honest, not perfect. Pisces asks for sincerity. Gemini asks for clarity. You don't need eloquence to meet both. You just need to match what you say with what's true in the moment. And perhaps the most meaningful integration is recognizing when something isn't yours to carry. With so much Pisces influence, it's easy to absorb other people's moods, anxieties, or expectations without noticing. A simple internal question can reset your boundaries before the day becomes emotionally heavy. Is this mine? If the answer feels like no, even faintly, you don't need to push the emotion away. You only need to stop trying to solve it. Movement can help today too, but not in a forced way. A short walk, a stretch that opens the ribs, a moment of grounding your feet on the floor before a meeting. These small physical cues bring your awareness back into the body, which helps balance the quick mental energy of Gemini and the porous emotional energy of Pisces. None of today's integration points require effort. They require attention. Attention to how you breathe when you're overwhelmed. Attention to how you react when you're uncertain. Attention to the difference between a real need and an old habit. This is how the first quarter moon works. It doesn't demand a leap, only a shift. If the day feels like a conversation between pressure and softness, let yourself participate in it slowly. Let your responses be smaller, more honest, less dramatic. Integration doesn't mean solving everything. It means staying connected to yourself while things move around you. And if you end the day having taken even one moment to choose presence over reaction, that is more than enough under this sky. As the day winds down and the first quarter moon settles into its evening rhythm, the intensity of the earlier hours may begin to ease. The mind quiets a little. The emotional tides soften. What felt sharp in the morning may feel less urgent now, not because anything has been solved, but because you've been moving with the sky rather than against it. This is the quiet reward of a day shaped by Gemini and Pisces. Clarity doesn't arrive as a revelation, but as a gentle loosening inside the chest. You might notice, as you look back on the day, that the pressure wasn't trying to corner you. It was trying to show you something about how you respond when things start to build. Maybe you saw the places where you tend to rush, the places where you hesitate, the places where you carry what isn't yours, or the places where your body speaks more honestly than your thoughts do. None of that is a problem. It's all part of recognizing your patterns with compassion instead of judgment. As the moon continues through Gemini, the atmosphere feels a little lighter. Conversations may land more easily. Your thoughts may spread out instead of circling tightly. Pisces still holds the emotional undertone of the day, but now it feels more like support than overwhelm. A reminder that sensitivity is a strength when paired with awareness. And this is where the closing of the day becomes meaningful. You don't need a dramatic insight to feel complete. You don't need a breakthrough or a final answer. The first quarter moon isn't asking for perfection. It's asking for participation. It's asking you to notice one thing you responded to differently today, even if it was small. One moment where you paused instead of pushing. One moment where you listened to your body before your mind. One moment where you told the truth a little more gently. That's enough. That's alignment in motion. As you move out of this video and back into your evening, let the energy taper naturally. No declarations, no vows. Just a simple awareness that the way you respond to pressure is already shifting, quietly, steadily, in ways that don't need to be announced. If this reflection supported you today, you're welcome to stay connected to this space. A like or a subscription helps this channel reach others who might need the same reminder. But there's no rush and no expectation. Take what resonated, leave what didn't, and let the rest settle in its own time. Under this first quarter moon, may you feel the steady ground beneath even the smallest step you take, and may you end the day not with certainty, but with a softer way of being with yourself. I'll meet you in the next video.